Hey everyone, I'm happy to get our team back together, and since we shared our recent discussions on the forum T1, we received many questions with a similar theme, and I really want to take a little deeper look into those questions. What it ultimately relates to, we'd refer to the opportunity that working to sort of get your technology and your accounting prepared for the T1, and the opportunity that you can just evolve your entire system that way. And so a lot of these questions relates to, like what question should we be asking as it relates to the technology, specifically accounting and technology? And, those questions are as it relates to the T1, and in the same message from people, it's how about my organization as a whole? And, there's a common theme to the sense of, I thought back in January of this year that our systems was working great, and after months of working remotely, found out they're not quite as good as what I thought. And now, as sort of the climate and the remote working may continue, and that line's a little fuzzier to get back into our offices, I'm a little bit concerned, and I'm concerned about the T1, and I'm also concerned about how can we just improve our systems as a whole. And I suspect, Wally, you've encountered this question quite a bit lately.
Yeah, Brian, that's a good point. As we all rethink how work gets done, spending time in our technology and thinking about how that technology can help us improve and do things. Most of the time when I'm in talking to clients, it's about having too many spreadsheets, or I can't close the month, or our expense reports are manual and they're paper sign-offs instead of digital sign-offs and things like that. So a lot of times when we're spending the time with an organization, as you're alluding to, trying to sort out what types of systems or changes to their systems they can do. That first step is really leveraging the cloud and leveraging technology in the cloud, using systems that will allow them to access from their phone and work remotely, are all the wonderful things that we need, but also providing more visibility into the data and the metrics, and providing more of a general control into how people use the system and how our teams and staff will use the systems. So yeah, it's a common theme these days as we roll through and discuss with our customers how to improve their accounting systems.
Wally, recently one of my clients upgraded their accounting system to actually, it was to NetSuite, which was really great. And they're a large, complex labor union, and it's really done wonders as far as having like a modern system that can not only able to handle this organization, their complexity and their size, but also get it in the various formats that are needed in order for them to do all their internal reporting and external compliance filings. And so they've really enjoyed the benefits of getting into like one of these, modern system, one that's really designed for them. And I think it was interesting too, because what you were saying about people in their spreadsheets, part of that discovery has been helping their team learn to, they're so comfortable and familiar with spreadsheets. I can relate, right? And I'm an accountant, we love our spreadsheets. So I completely get it. But helping their people, get past that learning curve and transfer that spreadsheet type data into the system data. And, it makes their lives easier once they get past that learning curve, and helps with all that data visibility and everything. So, I don't know, that was really cool. And so, what are your thoughts when it comes to that, maybe that coordination between that data and the personnel, and like, are there other considerations that go into like modernizing your system like that is good for people to be thinking about?
Yeah, I like with the LM2, and you start to think about how it's going to ease the reporting piece. And so that output that all of these organizations have to get to in a system like NetSuite, all of the inputs that are going to go into that LM2 are tagged, and they're tagged appropriately, and they can be segmented to come up with a report. It may not be one button press, print the report, but it certainly is going to be one button press, here's the information that needs to go into that report. And where most companies have tried to seek and find that data for days, hours, et cetera, with multiple resources, kludge together multiple spreadsheets, they become very good at using VLOOKUPs and tagging sheets together, building out these wild pivot tables to accommodate that reporting. NetSuite is going to be able to handle that reporting, that level of segmentation to get to the LM2 reports and other reports, multiple schedules that they're going to need, and be able to do that quite quickly and easily. So nice to hear that your client had a good success. What I would encourage, if you're looking for feedback for them, is to work backwards from the output. And I always do that as part of my training activities with any organization. Here's the output you're trying to get to. Remember last year, it took us 10 days and all this manpower to get there. This year, it's going to take a little bit of time to learn, but it's going to take less. And next year is going to be better. And we're going to be able to use that time for other things to complete our organization, finance function, operation function, et cetera. Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind me stepping in here, I'm thinking about this from the standpoint, I've heard words modernization, I've heard leverage, I've heard pivot tables, I've heard all of these things. And that's great if you're a technology person or you're trained as a bean counter or an accountant. But for labor leaders, they may not have that background, yet they're the ones that have that awesome responsibility of not only representing their members, but also managing the business of a union. And unions have come under so much pressure right now. They've got a pinch on revenue. They're trying to figure out, how do I do more for less? And so they walk into their bookkeeper's office or the accountant's office and say, hey, is our system modern? And the answer they're going to get back is yes. But how do they know? I mean, what kinds of triggers or situations, or are there checklists that you might have to recommend? And the one that comes to my mind, by the way, is when the officer goes in the accountant and says, can you please provide me a list of all of the payments we made to this vendor in the last 2 years? And it takes them 3 days to get the information. And it seems to me that something's broken there that needs some kind of a transformation from old to new. You use the word rethink, but that's how I look at it. How do we get into kind of a new school mindset? So do you have any thoughts about what a leader, how they can approach this and what tools they might use to figure out what the real answer is?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you picked up one of the key, and that is, if I ask for information, it sits on someone's desk and it takes days to get back. And a lot of times that resource is thinking about how they're going to go get that info. Never mind, all I have to do is this amount of work and I'll get to that info. Sometimes they can't even get to the info, and it takes them a long time to uncover and find the info. So that's one of the first keys is, are you getting information in a timely manner? And then typically when I walk in, Ashley said it nicely about in the beginning about spreadsheets. And so if I request information as I'm going in and doing a technical assessment, I'll get back a series of spreadsheets on the information I might ask from a company. If I'm an executive in that organization, that'd be a red flag for me. If everything is in an Excel spreadsheet and it's not coming out of the system, I would start to think about, hey, maybe there's a lack of control, there's lack of data transparency, and all of these things are going to ultimately impact in us making a more informed decision as an executive in that organization. Does that answer your question, Dave?
It does, and I just have a small follow-up in that in this world of people taking advantage of organizations, if their world lives on spreadsheets, it seems to me the spreadsheet can be manipulated however the user wants it to be, and it doesn't come out of the system, doesn't come out of the box almost pure and untouched. And I would think that would be a concern for a labor leader as well, is how legitimate is this data, and how do I know it's complete?
Yes, I think general controls and the segregation of duties and understanding who's manipulated that spreadsheet, et cetera, are all challenging areas that as a leader they're going to have to think through. And as compliance is not loosening, it's actually getting tighter and more stringent. And then if you go beyond even the labor compliance, FASB reporting, and all the other financial reporting that we might end up having to pull out of these systems, it's going to be very important that you are conscientious about your data, conscientious about the new regulations of managing other people's information. So-called GDPR and the California Act, et cetera, on managing data. All these things are going to be very relevant to a leader of an organization who now is going to be owning a lot of that risk for that organization.
And Dave, you bring up a good point. If you ask for information and you get it in Excel or a spreadsheet, that is very easy to manipulate and change a number, add a zero, subtract a zero, anybody can do it. And to Ash's point, a lot of LM2s that I've seen put together, they're stringing together spreadsheet after spreadsheet, using those formulas and VLOOKUPs and various pivot tables. And kind of what concerns me is there could be a small little formula issue and it picks up the wrong line. It picks up the line below instead of the line on top, and your whole thing's off. And the formula works, so you think you have the right data, but you do your LM and you're picking up the wrong information. And without really digging into the weeds of it, you might be none the wiser. So that really scares me. And I know, Wally, something we talked about before is kind of this, it's maybe an IT term, but I think you can probably help me explain it in more just regular terms. Having like one source of truth. So I think we kind of got into that with like, having the various spreadsheets, and the reporting isn't like self-service at your fingertips. But I've heard this term a lot, and can you help us understand a little better how having one source of truth really helps with reporting and analysis of financial information?
Yeah, I think it's so important. And if we just took, say, member dues, and we have a member dues system over here, and then we have a financial system where we pull all that information together, we have now actually two places of information where we might have a member and their dues. And then we add a payment processor, which is another system. And now we've got a third system. And how are we going to tie all that together so that at the end of the month, I can tie out that this X dollars belongs to that particular member, and tracking that all through. So single source of truth allows us to tie those systems together. A product like NetSuite that can be integrated to, geeks speak for a second, wide open API, which simply means I can connect to it and I can translate from different systems and bring information in. Once I have all that information in there about that particular member, I can report in any way, shape, or form. If I were to think about an expense report, if I had an expense report system that was disconnected from my finance system, I'm in the same position as I just mentioned about the member. And so now what I want to be able to do is bring that into a single system, single source of truth on that expense report, so that in any schedule or any report that you want to do, I could actually export all of those expenses and then choose to take out what I don't believe needs to be part of that schedule versus not even be able to report on it. So single source of truth is just the ability to have within a single system, and any other system when I run a report all refers back to that same field at that point in time.
Great. And we've talked about this a little before, but if I have a modern system, so like a system that's hosted in the cloud, like NetSuite or something similar, right? And say I'm the treasurer of the union and I want to look at all the expenses for a certain vendor, or I want to look at all the dues that are coming in from a certain employer. Is it possible that I can just click a button and see that on a laptop or my phone from wherever I happen to be?
What's nice is if we think about the different use cases within an organization, if I'm the president, I want to quickly look at that, I potentially could log in on my iPhone and quickly take a glance. I'm just about to walk in with that vendor and I'm talking about what our relationship will be like over the next year. I could quickly at a glance look at my phone, come up with how much have we spent with you over the last couple of years, and I could start working and negotiating. On the compliance side of that same vendor, I then could report and segment every expense report across the entire organization and be able to report on it and segment it appropriately for there. So there's two completely different use cases that may come from the ability of being able to segment that data.
But if I have a regular old school, as Dave would call it, accounting system that runs off a CD, off a desktop computer in my office, I'm limited. I'm not going to be able to get that kind of functionality. Is that correct?
And what you're going to have to do is go back to the same sort of concept that was known before, which is I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to call somebody who's going to have to log in and get to that information, and hopefully they get it back to us. In a modern system, it sort of starts gearing you toward a self-service mentality. And ironically, the more information you have at your fingertips, the better it's going to be for them. And it really is simple for them to use. And as I'm training executives and clerks and accounting folks, controllers, when I'm training those folks on the particular products, I really do work from tablets, remote. We are today on Wi-Fi across the world, and I could be on and I'm working in your system right now and pulling out that information, and I show them how easy that is. And I think that taking advantage of the cloud and using technology as your ally to get that information, once people start to get their minds wrapped around this is not as hard as I think and I can access that information, the access to that information drives them to learn more.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
This is a really good discussion, and I definitely encourage you all to keep the questions coming, and many we respond to directly in email. And I find it so ironic that we spend so much time talking about technology and how things evolve that, you know, it's so great that we can just jump on a video call when we get a highly frequently asked question and do what we love to do it with them, and that's to provide a personal touch. And so I appreciate your all's time, and like I said, I think that, you know, as we, you know, we get the video out to more people, and like I said, I think that us using technology and reaching clients and giving that personal touch, it just is excellent. And so thank you all for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, guys.